G'day mate, 40 here at La Perouse Beach near Botany Bay in Sydney, and it's a wonderful day. It's Muslim Day. It's wonderful to see dozens of Muslims in full Muslim regalia, going to the beach, being both fair dinkum Muzzies and fair dinkum Aussies, and how we can all just get along. And Islam has played such an integral role in the whole history and development of Australia. And the sad thing is, I can't even name any of the powerful, influential, important Australians who are Muslims because of our bloody educational system, mate. It refuses to acknowledge Islamic contributions. There's this crazy wall of silence, and I'm here to do something about that. So there's a big sign up saying 5 people have died here at this place. And if you're going to fish here, you have to wear a life jacket. And someone died while fishing in Sydney just the other day. Yeah, Kanye West likes the furor. So yeah, I fully recognize the humanity of Nazis. I see it. Ricardo challenged me to recognize the full humanity of Nazis, and I absolutely do. Now, Ricardo sees, the devil in many different places and uses the devil as an explanation. Many people use, the demonic as an explanation for Hitler and the Nazis, but I don't. I see them all as fully human. I recognize their humanity, and I recognize that they did good things. Like the Nazis were generally kind to animals, and Hitler was generally kind to animals. And if Hitler had retired or died in 1938, he likely would have gone down as one of the most important German leaders ever. Like on just a pure power basis, he seemed to be doing everything right up until about 1939, and then it all fell apart. So, listening to Richard Spencer, and what makes Richard Spencer so much fun to listen to is that he's so passionate, and he really believes what he's saying, as opposed to a bloke like me who's just frequently parroting the conventional wisdom and is not even very sure about it. So Richard sees Yeism as triumphant, which seems really bizarre to me, but that's what makes Richard so much fun.
Wow, that was some of the most insane, compelling, ridiculous, maybe powerful.
Right, so I would never think of that. Yeah, Hitler was on neutral grounds with the Vatican until around 1939, so he was on a good wicket as far as amassing power, and any German leader at that time would have been strongly incentivized to, go to try to take over and control Europe. That's just basic power politics. What was unique about Hitler and what other leaders would not have done is exterminate the Jews. But I think most people just see Kanye West's performance the last 6 weeks as self-destruction and as an episode of megalomania. And my definition of mental illness is if your mental faculties aren't suiting your best interests. So that's my rather dull and pedestrian take, but Richard has a much more exciting perspective.
Television, that is the right word, live stream that I have ever seen in my life.
So I haven't seen more than just a few excerpts from Kanye's appearance on Alex Jones, but I doubt that I'd find it as compelling, exciting, and powerful as Richard does. To me, it just seems ever greater, ever more intense forms of destruction. I absolutely believe that you can say critical, important things about any group, including Jews, and that all groups benefit from accurate criticism. I just don't see Kanye contributing anything new in his critiques of Jews, and what he does say that's new, I don't see as true. So what he says is true is not new. What he says is new is not true. That's my plodding pedestrian take. And this is why it's so hard to compete with the Richard Spencer, who has such passionate anti-conventional wisdom perspectives, and it makes him a lot of fun.
Taking care of some things in the house this morning, shoveling a little snow, actually taking the dog for a walk, listening to this. I couldn't take my eyes off it, or ears off it in this case. Now, I would like to say from the onset that I don't support this movement. This movement is not me. It's not what I want. It's not something that I resonate with. It is something that I personally, at least in its ideology, something I find ridiculous and maybe even contemptible at some level. But I will not deny its power. And, as I've said in a couple of these previous...
So, to what kind of people would Kanye's performance be powerful? And I think it would be a lot of people with a theatrical bent. So, Richard in high school thought he'd become a theater director when he grew up. So, I think Richard is compelled by the powerful theatrical elements of Kanye's self-destructive spiral. And what makes Richard so compelling is that there is a public performance aspect to his public performance, to his life, right? He speaks and acts and live streams as a highly compelling theatrical performance. And it's very hard to match that level of compelling content.
And I've written this, Trump just kind of threw away his mojo. He wasn't, in that last speech at Mar-a-Lago, his announcement of his 2024 campaign.
So those things that are effective are usually not exciting. Right? Those things that are true are usually not exciting. Those things that are profound and wise and good are usually not exciting. And I speak as someone with a lot of addictive tendencies. Excitement's kind of dangerous for me. Yeah, Richard Spencer is flamboyant, treating each talk as a performance. Yeah, it's incredibly compelling. And I'm not sure why the seagulls are circling me. I just wonder what they know that I don't know. Yeah, he loves each new shiny object, said a friend. But, I listen to him because he is great fun to listen to.
Written by Stephen Miller. He just kind of threw away the crazy, the Dionysian pull, the intoxicating insanity.
So for most people, they have a strong incentive to throw away the crazy, all right? There are very few people who benefit by going public with the crazy aspects of themselves. And those tiny few are public personalities and performers who are not seeking to be known as leadership material or solid material, not seeking to have a positive influence on people's lives, and this is not a criticism, they just go breakneck with whatever their insights are, and they're not going to allow possible negative consequences to this or that idea to hold them back from saying whatever it is that they feel. So most adults do not benefit by going full crazy. And is a tide coming in? Tide's coming for all of us.
Of Trumpism that is present at his rallies. And he tried to be a regular Republican, and that will fail. And I suggested that he needs to kind of go crazy. I mean, go big or go home. That's the only way he can win, is to actually tap into this stuff. And he wasn't willing to at the time.
Okay, so what will primarily determine whether Trump wins or loses is not the degree of crazy in his performance. All right, this is my contrary perspective. What will primarily determine whether or not Trump wins or loses is events, my dear boy. Events. That's what Harold Macmillan said when answering a question, what would determine the success of your administration? Harold Macmillan, the British Prime Minister, took over in the 1950s from Anthony Eden. And he said, events, my dear boy, events. So events are constantly happening, situations are changing, and how well adapted, how well suited, how well positioned you are to unexpected, unexplainable, unprecedented, unforeseen events is what will largely determine whether or not Trump is elected and how successful Trump is in office. So, for example, many politicians benefit from very careful planning, and Donald Trump is obviously not a careful planner. But there are situations and circumstances that give the advantage to someone who is spontaneous, shoots from the hip, is somewhat chaotic, like Donald Trump.
Now, I thought he might change or so on, but what I've seen happen is that, Nick Fuentes, I think Milo's a sociopath who's probably trying to rob them all, but anyway, Alex Jones.
So Richard doesn't point out that perhaps a large cause of the enmity on his part against Milo is that Milo released that 60-second clip of Richard screaming on the night of Charlottesville, "We're coming back here 1,000 times if we have to. We're going to destroy this town." That was Milo Yiannopoulos who released that clip, and Milo then threatened that he had a lot of other such recordings to bury many different personalities on the alt-right. I don't think Richard appreciates that. Would Trump be the Dionysian and Richard the Apollonian? I'm not really up enough on my Greek mythology.
Went there, and they are producing something that, again, I pretty profoundly dislike and disagree with and don't resonate with, but which I am authentic enough to recognize as authentic. It is, if you walk into a party and there's lines of cocaine or there's a red.
Right, so that's a really powerful perspective when you say things contrary to people's expectations. Right, that really grabs people's attention. So if Richard was just to do this Twitter space and trash Nick Fuentes, that would be boring because that's what people expect. He just did a space where he trashed Kanye West. That would be boring because that's what people expect. But by saying something against what people expect, he is compelling our attention.
Red Bull waiting for you. Which one would you be tempted to reach for? Are you going to reach for the pale imitation, the mere stimulant, or are you just going to reach for the real thing? Are you going to go there?
So I had my first cup of coffee this morning, and I don't know how to order a cup of coffee, so I tried to order just a regular large cup of coffee this morning because I got up at 2 a.m. to watch the USA lose 3-1 to the Netherlands. USA held its own, generally speaking. USA held its own against the Netherlands and against England. I mean, they can be proud. There's definite improvement. Nietzsche wrote about this in his first book, Birth of Tragedy, Dionysian versus Apollonian. And so I try to order a regular cup of coffee and they say, "Oh, you mean an espresso?" So I really don't know the difference between coffee and espresso, but I think espresso has milk in it, and I don't like black coffee, so I like milky coffee. So I said, yeah. And yeah, I look really ill at ease in that sports bar. I haven't spent much time in a sports bar. I don't know all the mores in Australian sports bars. And, I wanted to film, basically from the back of people's heads, just kind of get a sense of the sports bar. But, I didn't want anyone, thinking I was doing anything pervy, anything inappropriate. Like a lot of people had their cameras out. The English fans were banned from dressing as holy crusaders as it might have offended the Arabs. Oh, so yeah, this is wonderful Muslim day here at La Perouse Beach. So many Muslims here. Like it's the largest collection of Muslims I've seen yet in Australia. Probably seen, about 100 of them. And yeah, live streaming publicly when people are around is like, I don't like it. It just makes me uncomfortable because I think it might make other people uncomfortable. But a lot of people had their phones out. They were filming the crowd, kind of capturing the excitement. So I went along with it. But God forbid someone thinks I'm doing something inappropriate, with my camera. So try to keep everything not just kosher, but obviously looking kosher. Right? You can't just sound kosher. You also have to look kosher.
All I can say is, wow, that was some of the most insane, compelling, ridiculous, maybe powerful television, if that is the right word, live stream that I have ever seen in my life. I was actually taking care of some things in the house this morning, shoveling a little snow.
So
actually taking
this makes me think again, that which is compelling is really important. That which is exciting is really important. That which is famous, that which is popular is really important. So fame, popularity, excitement usually have an opposite correlation with importance. Boy, I hope it doesn't get so hot here in the sun that my iPhone shuts down on me while I'm playing some excerpts from Richard Spencer's space.
dog for a walk, listening to this, I couldn't take my eyes off it, or ears off it in this case. Now, I would like to say from the onset that I don't support this movement. This movement is not me. It's not what I want. It's not something that I resonate with. It is something that I personally, at least in its ideology, something I find ridiculous and maybe even contemptible at some level. But I will not deny its power. And, as I've said in a couple of these previous spaces, and I've written this, Trump kind of threw away his mojo for campaign.
Sounds too hot.
Presumably written by Stephen Miller. He just kind of threw away the crazy,
gotta get out of the sun.
Dionysian pull, the intoxicating insanity of Trumpism that is present at his rallies. And he tried to be a regular Republican, and that will fail. And I suggested that he needs to kind of go crazy. I mean, go big or go home. That's the only way he can win, is to actually tap into this stuff. And he wasn't willing to at the time. Now, I thought he might change or so on, but what I've seen happen is that, Nick Fuentes, I mean, mine was a sociopath who's probably trying to rob them all, but anyway, Alex Jones, they all went there. And they are producing something that, again, I pretty profoundly dislike and disagree with, don't resonate with, but which I am authentic enough to recognize as authentic. It is, if you walk into a party, there's lines of cocaine, or there's a Red Bull waiting for you. Which one would you be tempted to reach for? Are you going to reach for the pale imitation, the mere stimulant, or are you just going to reach for the real thing? Are you going to go there? And are you going to get sucked into this kind of mess that they're creating? The answer is that this kind of thing will win. This kind of thing is more authentic, it's more powerful, it's more just outright insane. It will win over average Republicanism any day. And at the end of the day, I think average Republicans are going to have a hard time criticizing this, because they're ultimately criticizing their own people. They're a kind of mask on this Christian insanity that was just laid out for you in its full glory today on the Alex Jones program. They're going to have a real difficult time denouncing it. They're going to probably try to avoid it all. But at the end of the day, this is in its essence the kind of thing that actually motivates Republican voters. So again, just to make this clear, I think I have been clear, I don't support this, but I recognize its power. And I, in some ways, have a...
Is it really that powerful, though? I mean, is it anything more powerful than like a train wreck, a car crash? Seeing someone disembowel themselves? Is it any more powerful than that? So have to find some shade so my phones don't overheat.
Grudging respect for someone like Fuentes and Ye for just going full bore and taking something to its limit, or
only 5 people have died here, so I think I'm fine.
Kind of becoming what it is in a Hegelian sense, Nietzschean sense.
Gotta find shade.
You're not lying to anyone. You are laying out what a right-wing ideology of Christianity, I wouldn't even say Christian nationalism, they've gone beyond that. You're laying out what that actually looks like, it sounds like. There's something immensely powerful in that. So yeah, I think this is kind of the future. And they moved beyond. I kind of like the idea of, I don't like it necessarily, but I admire the fact that they just left 2016 in its tracks. I was just talking to someone just before I got on the space who was saying, like, all these tech bro, Elon Musk types, they're doing like 2014 level memes. They're so far behind.
Yeah, this tech bro Elon Musk stuff, it's so far behind. So I remember Richard predicted that Elon would not change Twitter. Well, look at those crowds. Elon's made profound changes to Twitter. And what he's done is incredibly important. Right? I've heard people talk about on Fox News how he saved America. The actor James Wood said that. So yeah, obviously that's a massive overstatement. But Elon Musk is making real important change in the world. And I don't think it's just boring 2016, 2014 stuff. Right? If it's boring, then the boring is good.
Far behind. They're talking about like free speech. We need to.
Free speech, that's boring. How dull is that? How 2014 is that? Free speech?
Themselves against tyranny. They're the power of speech. 2014, they weren't going to use that. maybe in a couple of years they'll be up to 2016, like Trumpism or something. They're always behind. They're in some ways 10 years.
I'd rather be behind and right. I'd rather be behind and true. I'd rather be behind and good. Like, I'd rather be behind and fair dinkum than to be ahead of things and to be wrong, to be ahead of things and be destructive. So that's how I see things compared to Richard. So there's like a lot of desire for excitement and the thrill of the novel. But sometimes it's better just to be right and true and good and pro-social. Yeah. This political movement doesn't have many respectable leaders, probably not coincidental. So now this side of the beach there wasn't good because the tide was coming in, the waves were getting closer, but at least there wasn't wind. Now over here, there's wind, which is going to interfere with the sound quality. So I want to get out of the sun and get out of the wind, so I can go back to providing you that high quality production, which my videos are still going to know. You think Yi's personal trainer is a massage trainer? I have no idea. And also, what does massage train mean? Like, I've probably taken classes from someone who's taken classes with someone who had some connection to the massage. So, am I massage trained? All right. So massage is a word that's thrown around a lot. When people threaten me, I'll talk about, I'm going to go after you with these guys at massage. But what it really means is they once knew someone who was massage. So there's a lot of exaggeration, often with regard to claims of stolen valor. Massage in some circles is a scary or prestigious or deadly or an evil name, and a name with that much impact. People are strongly. So that looking out at Botany Bay, more like massage activity in Canadian government mind control type. He also handled courtly love. Okay, so anything Israeli has a lot of prestige with some people, or anything remotely connected to massage helps people get hired, get jobs. People who've served in the IDF, right? It helps them often get security jobs. A little off the beaten track. I don't exactly have my gimbal working correctly, but what the heck? I'm listening to Raven Rock. It's about various American plans for surviving in nuclear war. There's some distressing material in here. So apparently during the early Reagan administration, all right, they set up all these plans to move millions of Americans out of cities into the country, and there was fear that urban minorities wouldn't necessarily assimilate well, and that some white people in Virginia would not exactly welcome them to their community, which I think is really sad. And so I think the solution is that you send urban blacks to those communities that will welcome them, like Beverly Hills and Martha's Vineyard and Nancy Pelosi's district in San Francisco. So if there are backward white people who don't welcome diversity, then send them to those more enlightened white people who welcome diversity. So it's not just the physical infrastructure, right? Apparently, there's concerns about social cohesion. Don't know why, but so they thought there'd be a lot of racial tensions when rural white communities start absorbing large numbers of non-white minorities. I don't know why they think there's going to be so much tension. Seems rather pessimistic to me. Maybe they'd welcome the diversity. So, hey, I'm really off the beaten track here, trying to find my way to Botany Bay. I'm like Captain Cook. Captain Cook down Botany Bay. And I'm trying to do my best. From La Perouse. So some of these white towns would see a million people from the city descend on their community, and they were afraid there'd be tension. And as many rural Americans have guns, and there are a lot of concerns that they would start shooting outsiders. Well, maybe they'd welcome them, right? Maybe it'd be a good thing. I don't know why they're spending so much energy and time and concern worrying about integration. You know, why not just the glories of diversity go to work? So I was just on I think it was La Perouse Beach, and it's the most diverse beach that I've seen yet. Whoa. I don't know if this is connected, but it was also the dirtiest. It had the most trash. And I had a large number of people who died there. So maybe those who aren't native-born Aussies perhaps don't have the same respect for the ocean that the dinky die Aussies have. They're kind of raised with. So the guy who ran FEMA apparently in the Reagan administration, he'd written his PhD thesis on how America should put black nationalists in concentration internment camps to try to get a handle on the whole social integration, social cohesion thing. Pretty edgy. So apparently all these government agencies, such as FEMA during the Reagan administration, were concerned about evacuees upsetting the racial balance in their new communities when they flee the cities in event of a nuclear war. I have a much more optimistic perspective. So I think La Perouse Beach, it's the most diverse I've seen in Australia. 1/3 Asian, 1/3 white, 1/3 Muslim. Everyone was nice and friendly. I'm walking around with my seat, my fringes out. Absolutely no worries, mate. So here in Australia, we're too happy to hate. Hey, Dinkin. So I'm trying to find my way to Botany Bay. Gosh, where the hell am I going? This is not what I signed up for. And that's what a lot of my girlfriends would tell me. This is not what I signed up for.
Not me, not what I would do, not what I like. It's actually everything that I oppose on some level. But I admire the fact that they're just so honest and they're just kind of moving like blindly without fear, like just moving into the future, moving into a disaster.
Okay, I really got to work on my gimbal skills. Hey, Dinkin, mate. Hang on. Here we go.
Most likely, but moving into the future nevertheless. All right. Anyone want to chat? I can't stay. I can stay for about 45 minutes. I just felt compelled. The Holy Spirit moved me to speak. All right.
I'm there with you,
Aaron,
brother.
use the West first.
Thank you. I just wanted. Oh, Jesus. All right. So I know that, like, Richard, when you were doing your thing with like NPI, one of the things you admitted is a lot of the cast and crew is, not really articulate or like elitist or like up to par. So I mean, would you still consider, like, even though Kanye is obviously not like a theory snob and all this, like the fact that there is movement at all, is that your take? Is that like it's Overton window shifting is a positive?
No, Overton window. I hate that metaphor. I think that's just a stupid metaphor. It's not.
Wait, why is Overton window a stupid idea? Because it's been overused? An idea can be excellent. An idea can be overused, perhaps. People can go too far with an idea. People can make an idea boring. But how on earth is the concept of the Overton window, meaning, that which is acceptable, how on earth is that stupid? I don't quite follow how that's stupid.
And I think it's actually a really deceptive metaphor because this is like, I've heard this for years, we just need to keep pushing people right and then someday they'll agree with us or something. I don't.
Okay. Hang on here. Walking around with my bags of high quality electronic equipment. That's I'm totally going to make this work.
Hello, everyone. Itself, and it's powerful, and blindly,
Okay. Here we go.
without fear, like just moving into the future, moving into a disaster, most likely, but moving into the future nonetheless. All right. Anyone want to chat? I can't stay. I could probably stay for about 5 minutes. I just felt compelled. The Holy Spirit moved me to speak.
Amen, brother.
All right. Aaron, use the West first.
Thank you. I just wanted. Oh, Jesus. All right. So I know that, like, Richard, when you were doing your thing with like NPI, one of the things you admitted is a lot of the cast and crew was, not really articulate or like elitist or like up to par. So I mean, would you still consider, like, even though Kanye is obviously not like a theory snob and all this, like the fact that there is movement at all, is that your take? Is that like it's Overton window shifting is a
So notice, Richard thought that the problems were with other people, not with himself. Right? It's not things that he was doing wrong. He doesn't bear responsibility for the type of people that he attracted or recruited or served with. It's those other people. They were of poor quality. They let Richard down.
No, Overton window. I hate that metaphor. I think that's just a stupid metaphor. It's not like, I think it's actually a really deceptive metaphor because this is like, I've heard this for years. We just need to keep pushing people right, and then someday they'll agree with us or something.
Look, right and left are both variously adaptive responses that have proven themselves over thousands of years. So left-wing approach is to have more equality. The right-wing approach is to accept hierarchy as the natural order of being. The right-wing approach is like sterner with punishment. The left-wing approach is more permissive. All right, so these different responses we've evolved over thousands and thousands of years, and in some situations the right-wing response to be afraid of strangers, to build walls, right? That's the most adaptive response. And in other situations, to be open to strangers and open to immigrants, that's a more adaptive response. So no, you don't want to always be pushing right, because sometimes all the knee-jerk right-wing solutions are not the best. And then in other situations, a left-wing response will work better.
What I mean by that, yeah, like what I want is different from what Kanye and Nick wants. I mean, we are opposed, but I can recognize that and have a certain kind of like grudging respect for what they're doing. I don't want any of this. This is not elitism. This is like the opposite of what I want. But it's true itself, and it's powerful. And like, who am I to judge when they are, having resonance with all of these morons? Like my stuff, it might resonate with morons to a degree, but it's almost like an accidental resonance or something.
Well, yeah, a lot of morons kind of signed out with Richard Spencer 1.0. Like they responded to Hailgate and Hail Out People, Hail Victory, all that stuff. All right, you appeal to a lot of morons then.
And it's ultimately not something that most people would like, and understandably. I don't, but this is the stuff. It's elite in the sense that Kanye is was a billionaire and still has a lot of money, but he's obviously not an elite in the way that any serious person would take that. And I also do think this is going to be disastrous. I mean, this cannot win an election, and this is going to turn off. I mean, I would say this. I think Christianity, thankfully, is like done for the next 500 years after this kind of stuff.
Wait, the Christianity's done for the next 500 years? Because of this Kanye West stuff? The Kanye West, guys, did you realize that Kanye West is going to end Christianity for the next 500 years? All right, just count me a tad skeptical here. I mean, that seems like a rather dramatic overreaction. That's just me. But, however crazy Kanye West is and Nick Fuentes and Christian nationalism is, really, you think this is going to just end Christianity for 500 years? I mean, that's really exciting to say. And it's kind of amazing to listen to. But is that fair dinkum? Like, I just find it hard to believe that that's fair dinkum. Right? Is this really the end of Christianity?
Anyone with intelligence and sophistication and education is going to run so far away from this thing. But is this...
Really? So they're going to run away from Christianity? I think anyone with intelligence and sophistication is going to run away from Kanye West's presentation of Christianity. And maybe even Nick Fuentes' presentation. And Milo Yiannopoulos' presentation. But really, is this the end of Christianity for 500 years? Okay, let's go around the golf course here.
What we just listened to and saw, is this any of this anti-Christian or a-Christian? No. This is the essence of that Dionysian religion.
Really? So, you think Kanye West is the essence of Christianity? Seriously? Like, I suspect that if Kanye West wasn't spouting Christianity, he'd be espousing something else. I don't think Christianity is the main thing that's shaping Kanye West. Right? If it wasn't this crazy thing, it'd be something else.
And any people with intelligence and sophistication will reject that. They are doing far more to disrupt and demoralize Christianity than I could ever accomplish in my lifetime.
I don't know. I just think 99% of people will just think Kanye and company are insane. And I think that Nick Fuentes is, a little off. I have a hard time believing that this is going to profoundly change how regular Americans are going to view Christianity.
And so it's all kind of a good thing on that level. But, and I think Marjorie Taylor Greene and those people are too. They're associating themselves with, they are the face of nationalism, they're the face of Christianity, they're the whatever. And that means...
Really, Kanye West, Milo Yiannopoulos, and Nick Fuentes are the face of Christianity? I just find that hard to believe.
That everyone who is sophisticated is going to move off that. And so I think that's good, because that was always like a blocking mechanism for any kind of future politics or ideology. And so I think it's all kind of positive in that way.
As long as the torch is being passed, then that's like a natural progression.
Well, the torch, the tiki torch has been passed.
No.
The tiki torch is being passed. Okay, this sounds nuts. This sounds crazy. And you know what's equally crazy is like, why the heck am I walking on the highway? It sounds a little nuts to me.
No, I didn't mean that. I did not mean that.
You can say that at some point. I mean, I find that kind of funny. But
yeah, no,
what I mean is that, it's not doing what I want. But I'm not going to lie to you and say that it's therefore not going to be successful at some level.
Really? I mean, successful on what level? Like, what would be success for this Kanye West, Milo Yiannopoulos, Nick Fuentes movement? I just have a hard time seeing success here.
It is powerful. It is not what I believe in or what I resonate with or ideologically what I want for the future. But I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna this is gonna end in disaster. But before the plane crashes, it's gonna fly pretty high.
Right. This sounds a lot like Richard Spencer 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. So maybe Richard recognizes how similar the Kanye West, Nick Fuentes, Milo Yiannopoulos thing is to some of his prior ventures.
And I respect that. I respect the audacity. I respect Fuentes for leaving behind. Sometimes you just have to cut people off, leave them in the dust.
So is Richard saying that he respects the audacity of hope? Is that what's going on here? We've got the audacity of hope operating. I guess that's what I'm experiencing right now, the audacity of hope of walking down the shoulder of this freeway.
He's like people who surrounded Fuentes, all his friends. I presume they're not going to be his friends going forward because they offered some use value maybe 4 or 5 years ago or whatever. But he's moved.
Does Nick have friends? Or does he just have followers? Doesn't seem to have that many friends. He seems to have perhaps more followers.
And those people have no talent or power without him. Sometimes you just have to leave people in the dust. And he...
Sounds like Rich is talking more about himself, really. Do Richard's friends or Nick's friends have no power or talent outside of him? Count me skeptical. I don't think either Richard or Nick, transforming dross, human dross, into gold.
Love that. And he's going to be the next Alex Jones or whatever. I mean, make of that what you will. You know what I mean? I mean, when I say that, it's a little bit of a backhanded compliment or a little bit of a poisoned pill, you could say.
Well, where else was it supposed to go after the alt-right? I mean, that kind of blew everything open.
Maybe. I mean, I think it...
Maybe it's just largely about the self and ego gratification and pushing, oneself forward and getting attention. And the movement will shapeshift depending on where the attention comes from.
Like, there's obviously a direction that I want to take things, but again, this is going to be much more immediately popular and powerful. And I don't think any of it, I think all of that stuff, like immigration reform, kick out the illegals, or, say Merry Christmas again, wave the flag. All of that stuff is just in the rear view mirror. Like, they are so beyond that, it's not even funny. They moved towards, like, outright, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, just outright, like, revolutionary Christianity. It's where they're going.
I just don't see what's particularly Christian about this. Like, if you're fair dinkum in your religion, then you're giving things up for your religion, right? Making sacrifices. And you have people higher up in the religion that you look to for guidance and direction. You can't just make religion up on the fly. It's not authentic, all right? If you want to be part of a 2,000, 3,000-year-old tradition, you have to be willing to follow direction, to accept authority. And who are the Christian clergy who are speaking out for Kanye, Nick, and Milo? I'm just unaware of any. They are outside traditional Christianity. They're outside of any normative form of Christianity. And so they're making up their own thing. Doesn't make them wrong, but it's just hard to see what they're doing that's exactly Christian, because I don't see the Christian sacrifice. I don't see the knowledge of the Christian tradition, Christian teachings, biblical texts, the texts of the church fathers, texts of the reformers. I don't see any familiarity with any of this. I don't see exactly how they're embodying the life of Christ, or the teachings of the church, or the born-again experience. I just don't recognize any of this as Christian.
I would describe it as like Christian accelerationism. And I would say, basically, the accelerationists were basically correct. We come from the same echo chamber, right? Like, you had the echo chamber we all evolved from, which you had a great deal of creating. Like, all these ideas.
Don't you have to be Christian to be participating in Christian accelerationism? Wouldn't there need to be something particularly Christian about what you're doing? Wouldn't you need to have the support of various Christian clergy and Christian churches, Christian organizations?
Off each other and molded each other. You had the Christian nationalists that kind of formed, and then you had your pagans kind of formed, these different ideas shaping each other and bickering with each other because we weren't allowed to talk with anyone else. So all of our ideas shaped off each other, and this one just happened to shoot out and gain popularity because Christianity is massive and it crosses racial barriers. So without Kanye West, this could have never happened.
Race behind also, by the way.
Yeah, it completely elevates over race.
Yeah, it's just race is. Race is probably still going to kind of come up. They're going to say White Lives Matter or whatever, but they've gone beyond it, and people who are going to attack where this is going is because it's racist or something. You should attack the GOP because they're racist. That makes sense.
Well, this comes from inaction.
They've gone way beyond it.
Yeah, exactly. This comes from basically everyone sitting on their hands for so long and telling everyone to be quiet. It's like conversations happen in back rooms and ideas get stronger and stronger, and then eventually that dam breaks. And I think this is a positive thing because how I viewed the country for the past several years is completely deflated. Even Trump's presidency was completely.
Why on earth would someone view the Kanye West, Nick Fuentes, Milo Yiannopoulos phenomenon as positive? And the years of the Trump presidency is deflating? Because they're marginalized losers who, yearning for some sort of apocalypse. That's the only thing that makes sense. Boy, I am really off the beaten track here. I'm just going down mile after mile of freeway. This is not what I intended.
Nothing's getting done. I don't think anything will get done. And I think we need a massive paradigm shift culturally in terms of...
Towards Christianity in your mind.
Well, Christianity, because it aligns, in my views, with like Jeffersonian views of how this country was founded. I mean, I understand your certain critiques over things. I don't.
Jefferson wasn't exactly a Christian, but
I know that's my point. That's my point.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
So you ultimately I mean, that is the kind of interesting aspect of this, is that this is it's like the most American thing in the world and kind of anti-American at the same time. Like,
yes,
that's the weird thing about it, because this country, like, the real founders of this country were like religious fanatics, like John Winthrop. But they were the people who ran away from people like me.
Control. It's a form of control. Yeah.
I want to understand that too. Absolutely, supported state churches and like the status quo. They needed to get away to refound Jerusalem. Yes. Now, it's also anti-American in the sense that, like, you know, the founders were basically deist. Jefferson famously, you know, he was like a Kantian at some level. He like cut the miracles out of the Bible and then had a kind of rational Christ or something like that.
And he thought the apocalypse was insane. John was a bad man.
Yeah. So it's and obviously, like, the mainstream of this, including like normal people, normies, like it is pretty secular and so on. So on some level, all of this is like radically anti-American. But then on another level, it's like the most American thing you could ever be.
Yeah,
it's just like anti-elitism, like.
Okay, now that makes sense. This is Kanye West, Nick Fuentes. There is something very American about it. Right? It seems far more American than Christian.
Christ is on our side. Like, where can we find you? You can find me in the Bible.
Okay, so this is Richard Spencer's space. Maybe 3 days ago, his space on Twitter.
Just like,
I mean, oh my goodness. The way, I mean, it was just like, that was agonizing, but so like enticing at the same time, that entire conversation. Yeah. It was like glorious to watch every moment of it, because you felt the anxiety from Jones, you felt the anxiety from everyone, but then you also felt like they knew they were on this, like...
Sounds a little bit like my highest rating show when I had Nick Fuentes and Baked Alaska and Jim Goad and Bids and Beardley and Bidson's sidekick and company, like the Saturday Night Jim Goad Massacre, right? It was my highest rating show, but also left me feeling rather queasy afterwards, but a lot of people couldn't look away from.
Like Event Horizon, there's no going back from this.
There's no going back. Yeah.
Yeah, there's absolutely no. Everything's changed. Yeah.
Like,
I got a text from my mother about it.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, it's like that. Like, you're on a road trip and like you have half a tank of gasoline, and so you just can't turn back.
Yeah, you're like, no, dude,
we have to get all the. We have to drive all the way to Wichita because.
Okay, this is a great analogy. All right, this is great commentary here from Spencer. These last 2 points are very apt.
Because are like, you're in the desert, you have a half a tank of gas. Like,
it's better playing downhill.
Yeah, you just got to keep going. That's the only way you can survive. And I think that's where they are.
Forced, though. We have to realize that it was forced. Like, okay, if this wouldn't have happened, if Jones didn't get that massive lawsuit, he wouldn't have let this ride. He would have stopped this.
I don't think that's true. I mean, Alex Jones had Richard Spencer on. He's had David Duke on. Had a lot of wacky people on.
Point. You know,
he would have been supporting DeSantis.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of these things happen.
Alex Jones doesn't support Kanye West, right? Probably does support DeSantis.
Because of preemptive strikes. I don't know. I mean, people they're playing their own chess games and they make moves for certain reasons, but these are the consequences of those moves.
Like, there's been actually one of my friends has been showing me some discussion of a phenomenon that I've actually been aware of for a little while. And that is the Zionist Jews of a particular stripe, like Bibi Netanyahu. Mm-hmm. They've just kind of moved off liberal Jews in America. It's just kind of like, listen, guys, all right, you don't get us.
That depends on circumstances, right? There'll be circumstances where Zionist Jews and liberal Jews will find a lot in common. So yeah, right now the direction is less and less in common. Wow, that's the airport, right? I've ended up at the airport. Turn on cellular data.
To undermine us. You think we're icky because we're a religious state. Like we don't need you, and we're actually aligning ourselves with the Christian Zionists who think that we're the chosen people and the apocalypse is coming or whatever. They are motivated to support us. You aren't. So we're like the Bibi Netanyahu achievement has been to like promote, Falwell, all of these guys, Trump, Putin to a degree, although that's coming from, but they went into this, but then that thing that you're like attaching yourself to, it's kind of a monster, like it's Frankenstein's monster. Or it's like a golem that starts to attack the Jews.
That's exactly what Kanye is. Yeah.
Well, it's not just unique to Kanye. Everything's like this, right? You and I may be good mates, but then circumstances change and we're at each other's throats. I hope that doesn't happen, but I'm sure that's happened to you in the past. You're getting along great with someone, something happens, and you're suddenly at odds. So there are no permanent friends. As soon as you form any connection with anyone, you're also sowing the seeds for a future betrayal, because betrayal is the hyperbolic word we use for when other people don't live up to our expectations for them.
Exactly. Yes. So you create this golem to protect this is the original.
This is no more a golem than any other human relationship or human alliance. Okay, where the hell am I? I'm out at the airport. Okay, Millstream Lookout, Sir Joseph Banks Park, Penryn Estuary. Okay, so I am in Botany Bay. Right, this is where Captain Cook came. This is where Captain Cook discovered Australia. Fair dinkum. Never made it to Sydney Harbour.
Yeah, it's like we're going to create this monster in order to protect our community. And then the monster is like, I'm self-aware and I'm going to attack you now. And that's what they've created. So like, on the one hand, this is like, it's very American. It's kind of like weirdly kind of in the line of Christian Zionism. But then you have Kanye being like, I love Hitler, which he said from a Christian standpoint, and he meant something different than the way that's going to be taken. But he said, but like he basically said, I love Hitler, and then he said Hitler is cool, basically. And so like you created this golem that is on the loose, and it's actually not in your benefit to continue to do this. Like
no, and someone else is going to other team is going to grab that golem and use it against you. That's what we're seeing.
You should have.
It's basically we're seeing like basically how I see it is they wanted to steal Trump's populist energy and give it to DeSantis.
Yeah.
Ye comes in here and
I don't think they had any big, deep, intense strategy. These are people kind of acting off of instinct, and when you love someone, right, it can very quickly turn into hatred. There's never much of a black Jew, right? That's largely a myth.
That doesn't mean it's going to end up in the GOP's pocket. Not at all. It's going to end up as a tertiary element that may move the entire conversation to the right. It may lead to some kind of...
It's not even to the right. It's just somewhere else. Like this is neither left nor right. And I would say that in terms of pragmatic politics, I would be willing to bet anyone here, I don't want to say $1 million there now, but like I'll bet you $500 that DeSantis, he might not even announce at this point. I think he is going nowhere. He is the next Jeb. He's the next Marco Rubio. He's the next Chris Christie. Like they've opened up.
That's what Mark Lebovich said in the Atlantic magazine. He says once people get to know DeSantis, they're going to realize how boring he is, what an unappealing personality he has, how people just don't like him.
This Pandora's box, or like as they opened up a portal to another realm, and you cannot go back.
That's right. Yes, and this portal really was initially stepped into in 2016 when Trump won. We stepped into this parallel timeline. Yeah,
we did. And I'm not sure Trump is going to be triumphant in 2024 for all in the primary.
Who knows if we even get to these elections? This is such crazy.
Who knows if we even get there? And who knows if he's not in prison? I mean, there's so many factors. But what I would say is that like the candidate that all these GOP hacks think that everyone's going to just return to and it's going to be hunky dory, that is wrong.
No, the paradigm shifted long ago. They're so out of touch. I agree. Yeah. Well, Richard, I know you've shared some similar moments with as Kanye. How would you say that Alex Jones interview compares with like your MPI moment? Since you both were like feeling it, high adrenaline.
Oh yeah, the adrenaline gets to you.
Yeah, Richard identifies with being the center of public attention. He identifies with taking things way beyond the Overton window. So he identifies with what Kanye and Nick and Milo are going through.
Oh, you say hail Trump, hail our people, hail through whatever. It is what it is. It was true to the moment. And would I say that right now? Of course not. But we're not living it right now. We're living in a that was said in a kind of euphoric time. And so it just simply is what it is. But yeah, I mean, I think he went even further. I mean, he makes hail Trump seem, like lame in comparison.
Yeah, you're looking pretty moderate, Richard. You got to catch up. What's going on, big guy?
It's really important to Richard to be cutting edge. That's boring. And that's kind of what drives him, what makes him so interesting and exciting to listen to. He's waiting for the new shiny thing.
I'm not on that train, and so I'm kind of like, I'm walking a different path, but I'm going to get there, but it's going to be kind of slower and different, but I'm okay with that. I'm good, actually. But they are on this train with no brakes, just like hurtling forward to an unknown destination.
Yeah, but I think that's the brilliant aspect of like our entire community in terms of, whatever you call our element of the right wing, like the sphere in which we are. I think there's a lot of intelligent people and we are constantly in discourse with each other. We may not agree entirely on everything, but it's moving forward and it exponentially moved forward today in an unpredictable manner. And it may be going.
This guy sounds like he's not tired of winning.
Crazy direction, but I agree that everyone is going to have to adapt to this and provide their element to it and continue to be engaged with the discourse because that's the only way things get straightened out properly.
Yeah, you have to be engaged and you have to again, without endorsing Milo.
All right, there's a time to be engaged and there's a time to be disengaged, right? People who are disengaging from the Kanye West nonsense, I don't think their lives are going to be crippled by it, right? I don't think they're missing the shiny new thing.
It's not Milo. I absolutely don't endorse Milo. Without endorsing Ye or Fuentes, I still have a respect for them because they're pushing forward. And like, if there's something that I can say for myself, it is that I don't I recalibrate, I rethink, but I try to keep pushing forward in a radical direction. And that's the best of me. All of these guys who are just like, oh yeah, the GOP will do immigration reform next time. We'll get them next time. And, the people are waking up to the importance of illegals or whatever. That stuff, guys, 2012 called and they want their talking points back. Like, you guys aren't going anywhere. You're on a treadmill, actually. There's a great difference.
I agree with you.
I'm very metaphorical today. There's a train with no brakes hurtling towards an unknown destination. Now,
that destination is Latin America. I mean, I lived in Latin America. I lived in Latin America for 8.5 years. I know where it's going. It's gated communities and it's serious.
Sometimes it's a good thing to go backward. Right? So there's nothing inherently superior about 2022. Right? Sometimes it's a good thing to go backwards. And sometimes it's a good thing to go backwards a year, 10 years, 15 years, 35 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. Right. Okay, so we're at the planes are taking off. It's pretty current.
It's long leadership. Yeah, it's a clerical. It's like a it's not even true because the Catholics down the hold is cultural hold down there. That's why the Marxist governments really don't have much of a reach. Like they're maybe socialists on paper, and the American press tries to demonize them, but it's not actually like that when you're down there. You're very free.
Let me.
I think I know the destination they're on. It's self-destruction, social destruction.
Kind of walking through my own little mystic quest, I'm in the Appalachian Mountains, eating jerky.
You're Zarathustra.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I think.
Right, Richard had his fill of fame. Right, he's looking for the road less traveled right now. But times change, people change, situations change. You eventually may want that hit of fame once again.
Fair. The way I described it's a bit self-deprecating, if you couldn't tell. Now,
Kind of like Luke in The Last Jedi, just kind of waiting to see what happens, even though that's a horrible film.
But there's another like group of the movement, like the hard right or like whatever. They're just on a fucking treadmill.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going. You gotta go get somewhere.
Okay, I got to figure out how to get out of here.